Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is the 8th episode of the Adam Lew Show. I have a very special guest, a DJ I met at a wedding. But first, let's cue the music, which he, by the way, mixed himself. So there you go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 8th episode of the Adam Lew Show. You can visit my website, aml-creative.com. You can go to my Instagram, AdamLew22, or AMLCreative2021. I have two, different Instagram accounts to separate the business and the personal. Follow either or, I don't really mind. I have a Facebook, everything. But yeah, I'm here with DJ Sid. How's it going?
What's going on, everyone? This is DJ Sid, yes. And you can find me on Instagram at DJ Sid, which is at DJELSID.
And what company, and you're a DJ, right? And what is the name of your company?
So it's not crazy interesting, but it's DJ Sid Entertainment. So you can just throw the ENT at the end of that.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that name. Very straightforward. Nothing wrong with that name. You get your name out there, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we met at a wedding, correct?
Yeah, a few weeks ago, we were at the Wyndham Newport Hotel, right?
The Wyndham Hotel, yep. And then the food was not... You know what? No comment.
Should we rate it or not?
I would give it a 5 out of 10.
I'd give it a 4.
Oh. I remember that's the first thing I was like, yeah, this chicken's not that. Whatever. You know what, Wyndham? Whatever. Okay.
No At least the room was nice, right? And the
room
view
was nice. The room was nice.
Too.
Well, the view. You know what? We don't get into it. Hopefully no one at Wyndham is listening to this because they could sue us for slander. And, this this podcast, we don't have a lot of assets. We don't have a lot of lawyers to defend ourselves. So
Gotcha. Okay.
But, okay, you're a DJ. I have some friends that are DJ. I have a couple friends that are DJs. I've met a bunch at these weddings that we do. But, you came to mind, you seem like you're a cool guy. And I was like, and I followed you. We switched social medias. We exchanged social medias. And I was like, you know what? I need to have a DJ on my podcast. I haven't had one yet. So you came to mind. And I was wondering, what first got you in to DJing, the profession, the art, everything?
Yeah. So I would say it was my first trip to Jamaica, actually.
Okay.
And I was 17. I went with one of my high school buddies, and at that time had never touched a record or a piece of DJ equipment, didn't really know anything. I just liked music at the time. But when I went to Jamaica, it was my first introduction to dancehall and reggae and soca and just their whole style of DJing, which was way different than ours. And I was just super inspired and immediately went home, started doing more research, digging up more of that music, and long story short, got to here. But we can get more specific if you want, happy to, but that's kind of the very short, abbreviated answer to that question.
And what age were you when you went to this Jamaica trip?
So I was 17 and a half, almost 18, yeah.
And then when did you decide to start your own company, be on your own, book your own weddings and events and everything?
So weddings and events really didn't come until about 2015.
Okay.
Yes, and
how much after was that after your Jamaica trip?
Yeah, so that was I want to say that was 6 to 8 years after, because the Jamaica trip was high school, middle of high school, and then I started really DJing my own events after college. Which college is where I actually picked up cheap equipment, was doing dorm room parties, frat parties, eventually bars. You graduate to clubs, and that's how that kind of started. But the actual inspiration was on that Jamaica trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you were doing the frat parties and everything, were you doing it for free?
Never for free, unless you were really close to me. Sometimes I would request a handle for my buddies or something, or unlimited keg, whatever. But it was never free.
Good. Okay, so that's what a lot of people tell you to get gigs, do it for free. But I'm glad you got something.
There's other ways you can do it. Work out a nice deal that works for everybody.
Get your friends into the parties too, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and then what should the common person know about DJing that they don't know right now? it's not just playing songs, right? Like there's a lot to it, correct?
So here's what I would say. I always say that it's really not just about playing songs. It's actually behavioral science.
Okay.
That's really what it is, because you're kind of using music as your tool to trigger behavior and reaction and emotion. And at the end of the day, you choosing the right music, doing the right blends, saying the right thing on the mic is affecting the behavior of the crowd. So that took me years in order to reflect and realize that, but that is really what it is. It's behavioral science.
Okay. And then how do you get an audience? Like you start out with like a song that they're familiar with. Like how do you start out a night, and then like when do you play like go to the top, like play the tops, like
the bangers? Yeah,
the bangers, exactly.
So it varies, but if we're talking about weddings and mobile events like the one that we were at, that, for example, that wedding was a Latino American wedding.
Mm-hmm.
So I myself am Latino. I'm Salvadorian. I'm half Salvadorian, half African American.
Oh.
And my company is kind of known for multicultural weddings. So like mixed race couples. Like I myself am a mixed race couple. My fiance is white. And what I was going for here was that there are certain songs that are known songs across all age groups, all, I guess, cultures and demographics that are go-to, right? Like, let's say, so like if you're at a wedding, the goal is to entertain as many different types of people in that room as possible. You don't really want to leave anything behind. Whereas a club, everyone's kind of the similar demographic, right?
Okay.
So at a wedding, it's a little more challenging, but I usually like to start out with more familiar stuff. So like Earth, Wind and Fire, like Michael Jackson, Black Eyed Peas, like Maroon 5, Bruno Mars, kind of like things that like some people might call them cliche wedding songs, but it's always a good idea to kind of start with what everybody knows and then kind of like get a little bit more targeted as you go. And there's a lot of science behind the behavior of that too. So older folks get tired sooner. So you want to entertain them earlier. Younger folks tend to stay till the end. You guys can be patient. Work with me here. It's a science. Your bangers are coming. You know what I mean?
So later on in the night, when the young people are still out, the older people are sitting down, having their waters, you play the bangers.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, you know, I don't know like how many weddings you've been to, but like the further into the night I get, let's just say take a couple, like, I don't know, take a young couple in their late 20s, early 30s that, you know, kind of like me, who grew up with like a lot of hip hop, R&B, 50, Diddy, Ludacris, like things like that. Like there's a point in the set where I'm just hitting them with those classics, like Lean Back, like Tipsy, like In the Club, like
Hot
Mo
Here?
Money, Mo Problems, like,
yeah.
you know, like classics, just like growing up classics. But I'm not doing that in the beginning because people are going to like look at me like, what the hell? Who is this? What is this? You know what I mean? You kind of want to show your diversity early so that people trust you for the rest of the night.
And then you get riskier, or like not risk, you know, like you take more risks.
Absolutely. If you'd establish trust early, taking risks become much easier.
And it helps that everyone's a little drunker.
That too. And it helps if there's giant robots and people on stilts.
Oh, that was crazy. Did you set that up, by the way?
No. So I actually recommended the company. Do you mind if I plug the company?
Yeah, go ahead.
So the company is called Valentina's, and they specialize in La Hora Loca, which is like a Hispanic, like kind of like party hour service where this company takes it to an extreme where they bring in like streamers and props and like high energy music and people on stilts and robots that have cryo guns and stuff. So it was like the extreme.
Yeah.
I don't do that as part of my company just because it's kind of a specialty thing. So whenever anyone asks about it, I always plug Valentina's. So shout out to Valentina's.
And for those of you who don't know, the wedding that we were at, a big robot, purple robot came.
Yeah.
Like, how tall was this robot? Like 10, 12 feet?
Yeah, like basketball hoop, like, yeah, very tall.
And me and the photographers were frantically trying to get the right pictures and everything. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So Valentina's, that's the company.
Yep.
And they do the specialty robot and other things. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And any wedding stories? So any weddings that were like that just stuck out to you of for being like super fun, like it was just a great vibe, or any even like maybe even horror stories, like maybe the crowd wasn't right, the bride and the groom were super high maintenance or something like that?
So I really don't get horror stories, and I think it might have to do with the fact that like my calm demeanor tends to attract a certain type of client. Like people are like, they always ask me like, oh, like haven't you ever had like a bridezilla or a momzilla or a groomzilla or anything zilla? If for people wondering out there, that means like a very antagonizing, annoying person, and I just haven't. Good. And which is great. Knock on wood, that won't happen. But yeah, so I guess I would answer the question. One wedding that does, actually a couple weddings that stick out, but first was one that I did probably 3 years ago at a place in Cape Cod in Truro, actually, which was right on the beach at a place called Kalmar Village. And it was really cool because literally everything was on the beach, like on the sand. Like people had their shoes off, like we had our shoes off. Like it was that vibe, like beach vibe, 100%.
Where was it again?
Kalmar Village, which is in Truro, Mass, which is like kind of like Cape Cod. Basically, it's like way down, right before Provincetown.
Summer too?
Yeah, summertime.
Nice.
Like sun's out, perfect weather. And what obviously, like we went in there and did our thing, but what made it really cool was the groom actually was like, he works for a professional like lighting company, like that does like lighting for the Empire State Building and stuff, like really big things. Oh. So we get there and like he had told me, he's like, yeah, I'm going to have some lights. It's like my company, like it's going to be cool. We're going to have this, that. I'm going to be like, I was just like, yeah, that's awesome. That sounds great. Like I've seen it all. But then I get there and then there are these like industrial level like lights and lasers that are like the size of human bodies on trusses. And
so was it set up in a tent?
In a big tent. Oh. And they had to do generators. They brought in like event caliber generators. And like they had a dude whose job it was to run the lights for that wedding. Like that was his job. Like it wasn't just like me on an iPad. Like it was a dude whose job it was to run this stuff. And it was epic. It was absolutely epic.
And the crowd was good. Like everyone was dancing to the songs.
Crowd was fantastic. The couple didn't even put any requests into my system. They just trusted me. They were just like, do your thing. It's going to be great no matter what. And I just really used my ability to read the crowd, literally the whole set, freestyled the whole set. Wow. Nothing was planned and the lights were going. They had a clam bake for the meal. Wow. Like it was great. Like it was just great.
Food was good too?
Oh, great. Like phenomenal.
And okay, song request. So what is your view on like, do you request a song? Do you just play whatever song they request, or do you kind of balance it out, like what you want to do, what the direction you want to go with the night versus what they want?
So it depends on the situation. So I personally don't mind requests whatsoever. Like I'm a pretty cool dude. Like I'm calm. Like I'm not like one of those DJs like no request, you're dumb or something like that. Like I will always be respectful and receive the request. And if it fits with what I'm doing or I see myself going in that direction, sure, absolutely, I got you. It will never be like right now, unless you got like 100 in your hand or something. But like, if I say I'll get to it, it's like, all right, I will make it fit in at some point, whether that's a club or a wedding. But when we're talking weddings, I usually like to knock a lot of that stuff out prior, just with the system that I use to organize, because I like to collect their interest ahead of time. It just helps provide a better direction for the night. But there's always going to be people at the weddings that are like, hey, like, do you have this? Do you have that? I tell them I don't mind. Yeah. I honestly put it up to them. Like, how do you want me to handle that? Yeah. Like, I'm not, if someone asks for the chicken dance and you did not want that at all, like, and that's not your thing, I'm not going to play it.
Okay.
Like, but if someone's like super adamant about it, and it's kind of off, I might send them back to you and be like, hey, like, if the groom okays this, we can do it. Okay. So it's situational.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And what in the wedding business for, let's say, a DJ that wants to start out, what's the best way to get started with getting clients in this wedding industry?
So in the wedding industry, I would say for me, I actually started with people that I knew. So in college, where I started DJing, I didn't really realize this, but like I was kind of planting seeds for a lot of people. For a lot of my peers in college, I was the only DJ they knew. So when it came time for them to get married, I came to mine first. There's a lot of things they could have done to search for DJs, but when you're just that guy, whether I've done weddings or not, like that's actually how I got my first wedding. I had not done weddings before, and I was kind of like, are you guys sure? Like, you want me to do this? Like, I could try my best, but like, I had no promises I'm going to be spectacular. And it just went so well after that. I was like, I turned to my boy and I was like, we could do this for randoms too, you know? And so then you kind of start to fine tune it.
So a friend, like an old friend of yours was like, oh, I remember DJ Sid, and then well, we're having a wedding soon, so let's give him a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And like mind you, these people were at some of these dorm room parties. Yes, they were dorm room parties. Like people were drunk and messy, but like they remember them being so good because like not for nothing, my college parties were really good. So it's like it just doesn't leave their mind, you know.
Yeah. And which college did you go to?
I went to Bentley in Waltham.
Oh, the business college.
Yeah.
Oh, they're crazy over there. You know, I know some things that. Some things that won't be repeated on this podcast about people from Bentley.
They could have stemmed because of me, just saying.
What do you
Whatever
mean? Those
things that
you're thinking. We'll talk after the podcast, off the record about this. But and any advice for someone who's looking to start out as a DJ?
So if you're looking to start out, I would say mentorship is very important. Try your best to seek out a mentor, someone, not someone with my level of experience. I mean, great, but with any level of experience is good. Like, if you want to get more into weddings in private, maybe seek someone else like that. If you want more club and bar, seek a lot of the guys out like that. There are a lot of choices, but like if I didn't have my mentor, I wouldn't have excelled at the rate that I did. Everything, let me just say this too. YouTube University, totally doable with anything. You can go watch videos, watch reviews, figure out which equipment to get. All the way on beat. I mean, dudes on YouTube are telling you how to rock parties these days too. Like, let's be real. But I would say like there's honestly nothing like having that in-person like mentor that you're just under their wing. You know, you're like a, what do you call it? Like a caddy. You're the setup guy. Like you're lugging speakers, you're setting up equipment, you're like taking the requests for the DJ. Like I did all that. Like I kind of paid my dues, you know, like I was kind of like the side, like assistant for a while, but there's nothing wrong with that because I was learning, you know?
No. And who was your mentor?
So I had a couple. He has since passed, unfortunately. He was my bro. Yeah. R.I.P. to my brother, Walter. Just DJ Walter, Big Walt, we called him. And he was actually the DJ for the Bentley basketball team. So that's how I saw him and met him. I was like, oh, like this guy seems like he knows what he's doing. And he did. And I just kind of went up to him after a game, I think like sophomore year. And I was like, hey man, like I really like what you're doing. Trying to do it myself. I got this little controller, you know, doing my little parties here. Just want to know if I could tag along and like help you out. Yeah. And he was like, yeah. He was like, hey, like, you know, let's meet up, exchange numbers. It can be as simple as that, guys. You know, it's like, it doesn't have to be like an interview process or anything. And it was just a good fit. We became really close friends, and I owe a lot to him for where I am right now. Yeah.
And then what do you see going forward for your company and for your career?
So for my company, right now I am considered kind of like a single op company. I would really like to expand my company to like multi-op, where
What does that mean, single op?
So single op means that like as the business owner, I am also providing the services mainly too. So everywhere I'm booking, I'm mostly booking myself. I would like to get to the point where I'm not only booking myself, but I'm booking other DJs, but that also requires extra gear, training, money, infrastructure, exactly. And I'm kind of working my way up slowly, because right now I do have a team of like 5, but with the volume increasing literally every year, I'm trying to go like full multi-op by like, I don't know, let's say like 2023.
Okay.
You know, maybe a couple vehicles, a warehouse type of deal. For the club side of things, I really do want to go on tour with a local artist at some point.
Like a famous artist? Like what do you...
Well, like I'm working right now because I'm a producer as well, and an engineer, and I have a few artists that I push, hip hop artists, rappers, and so, you know, I would like to get to a point where they become really buzzing. We all kind of buzz when that happens, and we all go on tour together, whether it be a local tour or a college tour or an international tour. I would just like to tour with one of my artists at some point. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So plug yourself one last time for the listeners. Where can they find you? What's the name of your company? Everything.
Yes. So I actually have a couple of accounts, but again, my name is DJ L Sid. You guys can call me Sid for short. My Instagram is DJ L Sid. That's at DJELSID. That account, you're going to find a lot of nightlife, club, radio things like that. My other account, at DJ L Sid ENT, is my wedding and mobile account, where you'll find like recaps of like the wedding that we did, for example, school events, birthdays, reviews, and things like that. So depending on what your interest is, follow one, follow the other, or both would be really appreciated.
Okay. I don't follow the entertainment one, I don't think, so I'll actually give that one a follow.
Yeah, that would be great. I follow back too, so don't worry, guys.
He does. I checked. But yeah, you can, this is the Adam Lew Show. You can subscribe to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can visit my website, aml-creative.com. Go to my Instagram, AdamLew22. And yeah, thank you, Sid, so much for coming. I think this was a great episode.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I can tell you're really passionate about it, so I think that's great. When you're passionate about it, I can tell, and I think the words just flow and people listen more. So I think it's great.
Hey, it was an honor to be here, so thank you.
Thank you, Sid, a lot. So yeah, have a good one, folks. And yeah, stay in touch.